Ugh.
Welcome everyone and all to our round 3 of the Simufur Championship. Just a couple more seconds here. We get everyone loaded in. We're going to be loading in to Austria. Low population race. We aren't going to be getting too many people in here. I believe 11 drivers that were able to make it out due to a mix of illness and also another large race going on today. But for the most part, we're going to focus on trying make the most entertaining product as possible as we jump into our practice. Just a quick refresher for anyone that is new here for the start of our championship. Our practice sessions for our weekend schedule will be a 30-minute practice session followed by a additional 15-minute qualifying session. Short qualifying session and then we'll go into a 50% race. So 50% of what you would see in our real life Grand Prix distance, but that will also include 2 times tire wear as well. So expect any of these drivers to be taking a little bit of tires as we go throughout the race. So we see our first couple cars head out on track. If I had to take a guess here, just from our the overall ambiance of this track right now, possibly a very cool conditions. Right now we have let's be a rather cloudy sky. Shadow is going to be the first one to take to track on what's going to be the hard compound tires. Perhaps just trying to get a couple of laps in to reacclimatize himself with the track as he comes out here.
It does appear to be very foggy. Definitely very foggy.
Yeah, just a little bit, but you could think that there would be a spray coming in with how limited visibility is here for clear conditions, but no, we're just dealing with a little bit of fog in the cloudy heights of Spielberg. Shadow jumping into his first lap, followed by, I believe, a Williams off in the background. Perhaps that is Alpha or Tricky, I believe, are in the Williams cars. I believe that'd be Alpha Wolf. Jumping into the hairpin for the first time. Quick run down in the turn 4. Off-camber right-hander here. You want to get the car turned in very early and really hug that inside to get a good drive out. Got putting together nice. Coming out into turn 5. Another seemingly off-camber, then on-camber corner into the second double left of 7. And a quick right-hand flick of 8. All the ways to 9. Yakin Rint corner. A fast flick down 1 gear on the limit. And then riding out all the exit curbing in 10. Nice and early. Don't use too much. You want to avoid that corner cut on the outside. I'm sure many drivers are going to struggle with the cars in balance. We have Otto back, who I believe missed the last round of the championship. But coming back in from his race in Bahrain, I believe still had a decent result, finishing in the points. Otto definitely looking to recover for his championship battle. But a running theme that we're going to see carry on over from Baku is multiple teams missing 1 driver. It's going to be once again Ferrari, McLaren, and I believe the Williams are going to be the only teams with 2 drivers. So those teams are going to be looking to make a big charge on the Constructors' Championship in this race.
Yes, with multiple teams out, this definitely looks like it would be probably a Ferrari and McLaren race, at least for today. We'll have to see how it goes.
some. First is gonna be Shadow gaining that top lap time right now with the 1:06 left. Oh, never mind. Otto just selecting to take that top spot on the hard compound tires. A Red Bull for an AlphaTauri, staying within the Red Bull family at the Red Bull ring, but going to be Otto taking that first hot lap, but it looks like he might be backing off a little bit, possibly recharging the battery. Maybe he had a little bit of a glory run. Jumping into some drivers that aren't going to be just setting glory runs, we're going to having a little bit of genuine pace. We're jumping with Demi aboard that Scarlet Ferrari. It's going to going with the hard braking zone into turn 3. And with those medium compound tires, surely we're going to see that top time from Otto fall as those are set on the hards. These medium compound tires worth maybe about 0.6 of a second in this lap. A short lap at the Red Bull ring here. You should expect to see times maybe reaching the 1-minute 2s or 1-minute 3s come qualifying once we get the wicker turned all the ways up on these cars, as it's only going to be 10 corners that stop these drivers, or that are going to kind of make these drivers avoid an incident as they go on. I believe it's going to be a 36-lap race as well.
And it looks like things are also clearing up as well on the track, so hopefully the track will start to warm up for them.
Yeah, a little bit of cloud cover braking as they on board. Azzy, their Ferrari teammate, setting a 1-minute 6.8, perhaps going again back out on those hard tires and just getting acclimatized with the conditions right now. We're just trying to feel everything out as we kind of feel out these conditions for the start of the practice session. Again, the big thing that we like to talk about coming in is going to be how important it is for these drivers to build their confidence up going up into qualifying and really get comfortable with their car, taking it into qualifying. As many of these drivers seen, especially Bahrain and Baku, having higher retirement rates, a lot, including through practice, where many of these drivers are struggling to get to grips with their car early and maybe stumbling through the rest of the weekend as a result. We're going to see Demi one last time coming through and sneaking in at 6.6, so possibly just doing a little bit of race runs on high fuels. That certainly isn't going to be a time on the absolute limit. Sergio possibly going to be sneaking into the pits. Yes, Sergio.
Yep.
Into the pits. Jump on board with Paula, a driver who was not able to make it last weekend, and their teammate, Raf Leggy, was actually fighting for a podium by the end of the race. Unfortunately, their tire strategy not working out for them by the end. But Paula, also our round 1 race winner. So going to be one of the drivers to look out for. Even though it was a chaotic race on Bahrain, they did show their pace, especially towards the end of the event, to try to hang on to the back of a dominating pace by Danny, who is unfortunately not able to make it to this race taking place in virtual 24 hours of Le Mans. We wish him luck in that. Hop on board. A little bit of a kick of oversteer coming out of the hairpin. Important traction zone coming out of turn 3. It's a painfully long run in the forest. Still a short run, but it feels like it lasts forever whenever you get wheel spin coming out of that turn 3 complex. Certainly not a place where you want to be missing your marks coming in.
Yeah, you don't want to be missing any of your marks. You'll wind up getting a little bit loose, and that could end your race very, very quickly.
Absolutely, especially with the barriers on the right-hand side of the track. It's very easy to... a little bit of oversteer coming in from Paula. Possibly...
And they are really rolling that car today.
Yeah, absolutely. Possibly just getting the tires up to temperature, but it could just be those hard compound tires not being the strongest for the Alfa Romeo right now, possibly just trying to lean on as Otto actually ends up setting. Ooh, Otto
Oh
with a
boy.
big spin coming
Hello,
out
Otto.
of turn 1. Oh, and that's going to bring up an important point here as Otto's, going to reverse on the racing line. Not the safest option there.
Oh,
and Alpine,
no!
oh
Oh,
no,
no!
it's
Oh
that Blade
no!
Wolf coming out of the pits, yes, in collision with, oh dear.
Jesus.
Oh, and
Oh
Blade's gonna have
man.
to go back in for a new front wing. Auto hit with a 5-place grid penalty for that unsafe rejoin. Game issued too. Unfortunately, causing quite the ruckus for their
Oh
race.
man.
Also, is that a Red Bull, I believe, there with no front wing? Yes, Shadow
Yes,
with
there
no
is.
front wing.
What happened there?
Possibly coming out of turn 10. I can only imagine maybe getting up on the curbs a little bit too much and losing the rear. Unsure of what happened there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna jump. Yes, a little
It
deep
looks
for
like
Shadow, but a little deep for Fane as well. So
yeah.
turn 3 proving tricky. Granted, Shadow with damage, but Fane maybe just getting a little bit distracted by Shadow going off track. Unsure as we'll have to check in on that.
Yeah.
Jump back in with Sergo. He's now going to be stepping into their flying laps. And Sergo going back to round 1. Another driver that finished on the podium early on.
You know, it almost looked like Fane may have hit the sign, and that might have actually taken the front wing off, but you couldn't really tell from that angle.
I do believe the signs, for the most part, do avoid damaging these cars, and maybe a little bit, but wouldn't be 100% sure. I think it might have just been a little bit of distraction. Oh, a little bit of wheel spin coming from Sergo. These are going to be diving down into that turn 4 complex. We get an aerial overhead view. Another yellow flag in sector 3. So Red Bull Ring already proving to be a tricky track for many of the drivers right now. And unfortunately, not spelling the best omen for many of our drivers heading into qualifying in the race. Another 18 minutes to go until we move over into that qualifying battle. But still, a little bit of time for these drivers to get acclimatized to the track.
Yeah.
Sergo is going to be coming around. 1 minute 5.2, not the fastest lap, but the fastest lap belonging to Azzy is going to be on the medium compound tires.
Yeah. Azzy doing a great job this morning, and it definitely looks like with the times that they're setting, they will definitely have a definite contention for this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Azzy, our winner out from last round in Baku, taking a very early pit stop strategy, and then multiple others trying to take advantage of the many safety cars that were coming out in that Baku race. 3 safety cars that changed up the dynamics. Sergo, who was leading that race, I believe it was. Could be mistaken on that, and it was a long week ago, but our leaders of that race, unfortunately, not being able to recover from a late safety car that brought the field back together, and they tried to recover on the softs. Unfortunately, only be able to sneak back onto the podium and not able to chase Azzy down here. Actually, I believe a Shirex, not Sergo. We're having another yellow flag in sector 3.
2-3.
Flags waving behind Demi there. So I imagine maybe just an off track for someone, as no one's retiring. But a driver that we haven't talked about much yet this race, or this event, Alpha Wolf. He was a driver that was doing quite well in Baku, if I remember correctly, before a late race or mid-race retirement. Ooh, a little bit of a wobble coming in from that Williams. Exactly trying to, or not sticking the best that it can through that turn 9 complex. That tricky corner, yes, it's a fast flick and it comes by you fast, but equally as much. It is going to be very easy to lose that rear. Too aggressive, and the rears will complain, and it won't stick to the ground.
Now, do you think that the other thing that could be causing all this could it be the temperature at the moment? Because remember, we started off in more or less colder conditions with the fog and everything. Now that everything's kind of warming up, maybe the tires are finally getting the grip, but people aren't expecting it. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Well,
But hmm?
possibly, but Austria is still it's a very front-loaded track. It is definitely a track where you want that front-end downforce on the car pulling you around the circuit. So it's very easy to just be too aggressive and get the rear to start coming around. And as you lose another car in sector 2. No, nothing too dramatic coming in. No retirements, unable to find that car, but jumping in with the other Williams teammate of Tricky, who is been talking before the race that they possibly might be having some pedal issues, but regardless, within 1 second of that lead lap on hard compound tires, might add very respectable with those pedal issues that they were talking about, and have to keep an eye on them.
Another yellow in sector 2.
Yes. Perhaps I'm thinking maybe there's just a sector, a couple drivers go a little bit wide, and then just marshals have a little bit of a panic and throw up those flags. We haven't seen any incidents going through there, but just plenty of yellow flags. Perhaps just the marshals being a little bit cautious with their flags.
Yeah.
Falling through, it's going to be Circle here, followed by Otto. Two of our fastest drivers of the session so far, trying to put down a good lap. A lot of dirty air that Otto's going to be feeling in that back car. You can see Otto's fallen back quite a bit throughout that middle sector, requiring all that front end downforce. And the rear is going to be trying to step around. Yellow flags in sector 1 and 3. Do not see what that is. Perhaps just an off-track. Otto is still able to set the fastest lap of the session, though, with a 1 minute 40.770. It's going to be an extremely strong lap, as Fane's electing to get out of the way for Otto, who's on what appears to be a recharge lap. Alpha Wolf also as well getting out of the way, but it's going to be Sergel who's going to be pushing. You can see that bar at the bottom of their steering wheel almost empty. The ERS being deployed heavily for Sergel.
Yeah.
A little bit deep, not able to get the car all the way into the apex of turn 4. Those medium compound tires certainly going to be screaming for help as we go a little bit wide, unable to get the car fully hooked into the apex. Nice and easy onto the throttle through the second left-hander of 7. And then down to 9. This is where we see the rear. A lot of cars step out. Nice and composed from the McLaren 10. A little bit of inside curb. Not all of the exit curbing, but still put together quite nicely from the McLaren.
It looks like we got another caution in sector 3, but more than likely just the marshals being very cautious.
It seems so. Nothing extreme that's come out. This is a track that does have a good bit of runoff everywhere that you could possibly see a car going off. Yellow flags are still going off here. No, green flags are now up in the air, so perhaps just a little bit of an off-track excursion, possibly a spin coming into that turn 9 where we've seen plenty of those cars before, already struggling for that traction diving into the corner.
Mm-hmm. And here we have Blade Wolf making their runs. Right now they're at the bottom of the pack, and but
yep. And so Blade Wolf, driver that was unable to make it to last round in Baku, but showed up in our first round in our first round in Sakir at the Bahrain International Circuit. Unfortunately had a disconnection issue, and we got Bot Blade taking over for them for the rest of that race. Perhaps, hopefully having our connection issues sorted, as Blade is going to be coming in. Looks like he's going for some race runs, so nothing crazy, as he's going to be setting the fastest lap of the session, a 1 minute 4.4, but perhaps blending into those their thoughts that we could be seeing 1 minute 2s, 1 minute 3s. We're threatening the 3s already in practice here, as he's strapped on those red wall soft compound tires. The qualifying runs have begun as the final 10 minutes tick away for these drivers. Going to be the Williams of Tricky following suit, pitching Azzy rather quickly, so Azzy's certainly probably on a recovery run as Tricky continues their race trim here.
And Tricky on that last corner kind of dug it in a little bit too deep. It looked like their tires were in the grass a little bit. We'll have to, hopefully that didn't, though no caution came out, so we'll have to assume that maybe it was just something on our end. We'll just have to see.
Could be. Tricky dives into the pits here. Looks like Azzy going on for another glory run on those soft compound tires, so we'll jump on board to watch the car on the ragged edge here. We're going to go deep into turn 1, take all that inside curve, a little bit of a snap of oversteer. Azzy able to collect it well. It's not going to be the best for traction as we come through. It's going to be the braking zone, very late uphill braking zone of 3. Turn hard and late, pick up that power very smoothly as you're losing traction the entire time coming through 3. And then the long downhill run, watching that delta bar painfully climb or drop down early into 4, a little bit wide of the apex for Azzy, but still able to pick up the throttle quite nicely into the 5. Then the quick flick of 6. Nice and tight into the apex. Yes, early on throttle, able to drive it out. Then hard into 7. Nice and composed. Use that camber of the track, driving it out. Then the quick right of 8. Avoiding those yellow flags as it turns to green. You know, Yakenrent turn, the fast flick of 9. And then 10, using all that insert curve and outside as well. Driving it out for the best exit as possible. A little bit of rev limiter banging, but not an improvement from Azzy, unfortunately. A little bit too sloppy of a lap to improve, as they're probably going to let the car cool down, recover some energy, and bring it back into the garage. We see Otto now going for a glory run, strapping on those red wall soft compound tires. I believe the first run for them for these soft compound tires, so we'll have to see how they stack up in a lap here with Azzy, as we'll jump on board with them coming into the rest of their first out lap here, and then jumping into their flying lap as well.
Another person that's up in contention right now is Demi, who's now sitting in the middle of all of this with a 104.680.
Absolutely.
And
Demi was a driver, too, that was in contention for the podium last round at Baku, I might add. So they could be a dark horse for this race victory coming into qualifying and our actual race.
yeah, we'll just have to see. This is definitely going to be one of the close ones. Most of the cars are off by, I almost want to say like 0.5 or more. But with the top 3 not even 200th of a second off, this will definitely be one of the closer races. But we also have to consider the fact that Otto has a 5 position drop because of the incident earlier, so we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, good memory there. I actually completely neglected to recall that from that unsafe rejoining collision that occurred with Blade Wolf. So that's going to be really detrimental to their race, especially with a smaller grid here that could result in them getting stuck behind some slower than expected traffic that's a little bit higher up than they're used to. As Otto's going to be able to sneak in a 1 minute 4.0. That's going to be...
Otto is not playing games today.
Yeah, Otto with a very strong lap coming in and going to be stomping his authority onto the rest of the grid. So we're going to jump into Kai's lap here. Kai, a driver who's unfortunately had a torrential 2 rounds at Bahrain and Baku. The 2Bs unfortunately not treating the McLaren driver very well, but up in P5 right now, strong pace as they're running on the yellow wall medium tires, so not running any barnstorming pace, but just trying to settle themselves in for the race, and certainly a good idea as they've unfortunately lacked a little bit of consistency coming into this series, but have definitely shown that their pace is able to put them at the front of the grid. It's tricky, just demotes them a little bit deep into the turn 3 braking zone. So we were talking about consistency, that McLaren just unable to pull it into the corner, as trying to maybe ask a little bit too much of the front tires, as a little bit wide and 4. So perhaps Kai just still needing to back off the car a little bit more and get a little bit more comfort out of that. Their teammate as well has been able to pip themselves into P3 as we jump onto them coming out of the hairpin here, as Sergel is also running a glory run in the last 5 minutes here on those red wall soft tires.
It looks like with Demi now on the out lap, we have. It looks like we have somebody on the grass right now. I don't know who that was. That I think was
it was Shadow.
That might, yeah. It looked like it was Shadow. I wonder what happened there.
Jumping in, it looks like Sergel's been going into the pits. Perhaps already have completed the glory runs, and Shadow has another late off track coming to the final corner, perhaps struggling to get that Red Bull into grips with this Red Bull Ring circuit.
Then we have and I think as you may have a little bit of an internet problem, they have disconnected, it seems.
Did they fully disconnect, or did they retire from the session?
Retired from the session, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, so that might be because as we're stepping into the final 4 minutes here, we to kind of put in a 30-minute practice timer because of the restrictions of the game. We do all retire at 30 minutes, so that way you might be seeing something with that, as he might just be retiring a little bit early, as it didn't seem like there was any yellow flags. They might have just come into the pits and put in retirement. As actually Paula, a driver that is putting in a glory run, actually I believe already done so, as they are on the red walls and put themselves up in the P3, as we have 3 drivers within 0.04 of a second between P3 and 5, and the top 6 or top 5 drivers all within, actually excluding Otto, we have 4 drivers within 0.2 of each other in the top 4 or top 5 excluding Otto.
So we'll definitely have a very close race in the first in the top 3. It'll definitely be hot, very close. I'm very interested to see how Paula does this year, because if I remember right, they haven't been doing too well this championship so far, but that I could be very well wrong if you want to correct me on that.
Well, Paula won round 1, and she wasn't able to make it to round 2, so I'd say she's maximized her points for when she has been on track.
Okay.
That is for sure. We saw Alpha coming out of that turn 3. Ooh, a little bit of rear end slide for Alpha. It's going to be possibly overheated rear tires as they spun up the car coming out of turn 3. That Williams is going to be certainly returning the pits here, maybe asking one more glory run out of those tires, but it's all that Alpha's going to be able to finish. So yes, it's going to be one more run as we hop on board with the Williams driver, the rest of the field retiring as they are advised to do for the final 30 minutes of the practice session, so we can move forward into qualifying and the race.
They're gonna give it all they've got, try to maybe get a little bit of more time and get themselves set up for the next for qualifying. We'll just have to see how it goes.
Absolutely, yeah. So jumping into kind of the final couple minutes here, so if I'm having a hard time having to guess who I would pick for the race win here. So let's take it step by step on who you think, through just looking at our practice results here and knowing these drivers from previous events, who your picks are for qualifying and the race.
So I originally was going to go with Otto, but after the incident, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be in on pole. So I might go with Azzy on this one, because they've been very consistent. They've also been more or less sitting at the top this whole practice session. I honestly think that they're probably going to, at the very at the very least take pole, and they may take it all by the end of this. Well, we'll just have to see.
Perhaps, perhaps. For me, I have the pick of the litter of the LPR bunch. I want to say Paula's shown good qualifying pace, but Sergil's also shown that they can consistently put a really, really strong lap down. So I think my bet and my heart's going to be on that McLaren, putting it at the front. Coming through the race, I'm not quite sure who could be putting it through. Demi's been a relatively safe driver. Unfortunately, got caught up in some incidents to no fault of their own in last round out at Baku. Sergio has been also a very quiet contender with their races, been very strong at keeping their nose clean, but also keeping their pace up. So I think I'm going to go with Sergio's for the pole and Sergio for the win for this race. It's going to be possibly a contention for a Grand Chelem.
Yeah, we'll have to see. As it looks like the Williams car is coming in for their to retire and get us ready for qualifying. So we're going to be moments away from getting into qualifying, and we'll see where we stand.
Yeah, absolutely. Otto taking the fastest time in practice, but it's going to be a 5-place grid penalty, so that's not going to be very helpful coming into qualifying. Looks like Blade Wolf also getting a 5-place grid penalty for their part in that collision on pit exit, but followed by Azzy, Paula, Circle, and Demi making up that top 5. And then Tricky, Kai, Shadow, Alpha, and Blade Wolf, the two Wolves, filling in P9 and 10, and Fane bringing up the rear in that Haas with a 1 minute 7.4. And to add in here for anyone that is interested in taking part in our leagues, you can join our Discord in the description below. We're happy to welcome anyone new, a reserve driver or full-time driver, into the championship, as well as many of our other championships in ACC, iRacing, and so on from theirs. We have our Porsche Cup League starting up this weekend, starting tomorrow at 16 UTC, as well as an F3 championship on Assetto Corsa. So we're going to start this qualifying session 18 minutes, not the 15 minutes I had unfortunately mistaken for earlier, as we're going to be seeing the first couple of drivers coming out. It looks like it's going to be Otto, the first driver on track, followed by the second Red Bull of Shadow, filling out, and Dusty pit lane kicking up all of the dust out off the rubber tires. Yes,
where did all that dust come from?
Going to be medium compound tires for Otto, possibly trying to set up for the race as best they can, especially knowing that 5-position grip penalties in. There's only going to be one driver in here that's going to have free tire choice, so it's going to be you run what you qualify on for all but one of these drivers, which is our 11-car grid today.
All right, and right now we've got most of the drivers out at the moment. We've also got, I think that Circle is also on his out lap, and Kaiju as well. I think only 3 at the moment, which is Paula, Blade Wolf, and Demi are still inside. They're probably waiting for things to kind of even out so that they can get out with nobody in front of them.
Yeah, looking for a gap, I would expect, as we're going to see Otto coming in for the first qualifying run. A little bit of dust getting kicked up on the edge of the track as that DRS flap's going to be wide open, storming into turn 1, and a little bit of a rear kick out for Otto. A scary moment for the AlphaTauri, surely going to invalidate their lap. A little bit more planted for Shadow coming up the hill here, up into turn 2. Cars don't even blink at this corner. Deep into 3, using all of that curb up on the inside. A little bit of a lock, and hard into the wall.
Oh.
Shadow, fortunately, I think, able to avoid any damage, but that's going to be very detrimental to their qualifying effort. Oh, no, they're going to be disqualified for going the wrong way.
What?
Shadow is going to be the driver that gets free tire choice, but not because of pace or incident.
Yeah. I mean, he really had nowhere to go. Where he wound up, it was either back into the racing line, or at least try to make maybe a U-turn and get back on the track safely. And I guess he went forward, and I guess the game decided to say, no, thank you. You're gonna have to be DSQ. That is very unfortunate for Shadow.
Yeah, and certainly going to be detrimental to their race, even more detrimental than Otto's contact, as it's going to be Demi pulling out of the way for the Haas driver here of Fane. Fane putting in 1:07. Kaiju putting in rather slow. Looks like they're going for 2 outlaps for Kai, as they're going to be diving into turn 3 circle, setting the fastest lap of the session so far. The McLaren going to be the next driver out here to try to set a new flying lap. Kai, one of those drivers, along with I believe it was Blade Wolf and one other, that weren't going out right away. They took their time and delayed when they came out. You're going to see the first order of drivers come out here. Cars really kind of blending it. Oh, and a little bit wide through 7 and then later 8. That's going to certainly lead a lot of time off. Certainly not what Kai would want to see. A little wide through 9. Get it tucked in for 10. Yes, nice and composed. A little bit of rear sliding coming through, but it's going to promote them up into P5 as we're going to jump in with Demi here, who is moving out of the way for the drivers behind, I believe, but setting up for their fast lap. Their first lap of qualifying, certainly trying to set that double out lap as well, really get the heat into the tires and get them in that proper temperature window.
Yep, and it looks like definitely now Demi's going to be giving it all he's got. Coming into turn 1, going a little deep, touching the curb. On their way to turn 2. Oh, we got another caution in sector 3. 2 and 3.
Yeah, perhaps
and here they come in.
Another driver going a little wide, I'd have to imagine.
More than likely.
Yeah, so it's going to be Demi looking through the rear wing, watching that suspension bounce around. Red Bull Ring, not the smoothest, but also not known for its bumps in the track surface. And very high up in the mountains, so the ground's not shifting too much. You see Demi getting a nice rotation through 6 and into 7, a little wide of the apex again. The same as Kai had just before. Unfortunately, not able to get the compliance. We jump into Yakin corner in turn 9 and using all that track on the outside. For 9 and 10. Quite nicely composed from Demi, and it is going to be P2. Certainly without that little bit of a wide moment coming through 7, that could have been a lap for pole. You see Azzy diving the car in, a lot of compliance from the front end of that Ferrari. Absolutely on it. Certainly going to be charging for pole, and what's it going to be? It's absolutely going to be pole. 1 minute 4.1. Like I mentioned, we're already endangering the 1 minute 3s as this track picks up. The surface gets cleaned up a little bit and the evolution starts to take place. I think those 3s are going to be broken. I have a hard time seeing any world where it is not going to be.
Yeah, as he was just flying that lap, and only 183 off from a 103, the first one of the race. And as we follow Blade Wolf, he has yet to set a time. I think they've been just trying to get the car nice and steady to go for their lap, and it looks like they're going to try to get it here on this run. We'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, well, remember, Blade was one of those drivers that left the pits late, so perhaps just going out and taking his time on trying to get the car set up how he liked. The compliance is still a little wide. Not many drivers able to get all the way to the apex of 7 there, and really keeping the car wide. You see the car moving around quite a lot from Blade. Yeah. Dive into 10, not using everything that the car has. Certainly leaving a little bit on the table, but it's going to be what appears to be an invalidated lap from Blade. But we're going to jump on with Alpha here, who's going to be flying that Williams, starting our next line of qualifying laps. And it's going to be a good bit of compliance. Nice traction out of turn 1 for the Williams, being led by, I believe, Tricky as well. So perhaps getting a little bit of tow, a little bit of team play for the Williams teammates here. Little deep into 3, but able to get the traction out is Alpha. He's going to be charging down the hill here. Surely Tricky gonna move out of the way in the near future, just giving that toe to the Williams driver. Don't want to be giving him too much dirty air because that's just gonna hurt his qualifying, but no, through the middle sector, he's just gonna stick right with him. So this is gonna hurt Alpha's qualifying a little bit. You can see he's going a little bit wide. Oh, and way wide in 7, so certainly that dirty air absolutely hindering his qualifying effort. Unfortunate circumstances for the team. Certainly going to be some kind of talks in the background there between the two. It's going to be a no improvement for Alpha as Kai starts their next flying lap along with many other drivers. McLaren down in P7, certainly going to be looking for an improvement. Here's a big kick of oversteer from Kai. Their first lap on the soft compound tires. Remember back to the earlier in the qualifying session, they were on the mediums there. So unfortunately, that might not be the improvement that they wanted because it's only going to be marginal. They might opt to back out later on in this lap as you look through the rear end. And the suspension bouncing around on the McLaren, getting it nice and tight up to the apex. Met quite well, not too much. Able to get the drive out. And we go into the middle sector, the quick left-hand flick. Then the straight, and then moving into 7. Get it tight to the apex, nice and late. Little bit wide still. None of these drivers able to get fully up to the apex. Then we jump into the fast double right. Kai's got the car nice and on edge. She able to drive it out. Yes, all that curb on the outside, and it's going to be a promotion into no improvement, possibly as a result of that turn 1 incident. Kai goes round.
Same spot as where Shadow went around. The same spot where Shadow went around. Looks like they're gonna get back on the track, and away they go. But man, that corner is very much been a problem for the drivers today, and I don't know. Maybe I don't know how, if it's just deception or something, but it seems like a lot of drivers today are just either getting a little wide or spinning in that one section.
Yeah, we saw Otto lose the rear end there as Paul is going to be able to put it into P2. A strong qualifying effort from her following Sergel. And the battle for pole is going to be heating up as Demi now only 1/100th of a second behind Sergel on their outlap, trying to match up with the rest of the grid. And this is exactly the qualifying battle that we expected to see. 3 cars within just under 0.2 of a second of each other. Certainly going to be duking it out as we're going to be jumping on board with the Ferrari driver coming in, possibly setting up that last corner. Yes, getting a nice, good drive out of the corner, then dumping all that ERS, DRS wide open, trying to make that car as slippery as possible on the straight. Oh, perhaps a little bit too much inside curb on the inside there. We'll have to see coming around. It appears they're still, no, they're lifting off. Yes, because definitely an invalidated lap on that one. Don't want to step in the way as moving an Auto flying by, getting a good bit of compliance. Rear end a little bit incompliant. They're trying to come out of turn 3 there. That's going to be a little bit of time lost for Otto, who's certainly going to need to get everything out of this Alpha Tauri to try to beat Azzy. Azzy still holding onto that provisional pole. The time is a 1 minute 4.1 to beat, but Otto is certainly going to be trying to beat it. A lot of front end on that Alpha that's really getting sucked into these corners. Only 2 to go. Otto at the right flicks of 9. 1 more, all that track used into 10. Good bit of inside curb, all that outside as well, and it's going to be no improvement. No. Once again, many of these drivers struggling to get any improvement out of the cars. Looks like Demi's going to be going for a second flying lap attempt, but seeing the trend out on track at the moment, I'd struggle to see that we're going to see much of an improvement from Demi as well.
Yeah, and right now, it seems like maybe Azzy's time is going to be here to stay, but it is only by just, with Paula being only maybe 1/10 off of Azzy, and right behind them is that circle, almost another 110 in third. This is going to be incredibly close. Demi's not also actually. Demi's right there with him with a 104.377. This is going to be despite the grid being small, this is definitely going to be a very interesting race, especially within the top 5.
Absolutely, and it's only not even a tenth between Paul and Azzy. Only 400ths of a second on the nose. It's going to be Demi coming into the double right. We saw how compliant Azzy's car was. Maybe not as on edge for Demi, but getting a nice drive out onto the final straight. And it's going to be improvement to a 1 minute 4.273. 3 drivers ending with a 3 in the top 3, as it's going to be only less than a tenth covering that top 3 positions. The podium battle certainly heating up in qualifying, but the points are paid on the Sunday. Jumping into Alpha, who's trying to improve their position for Sunday. The 1 minute and 5, certainly not a time that they're going to be too happy with. Down in P7 there, trying to get a little bit further up the grid in this qualifying session. We're jumping into the last 3 minutes of the session, so every driver that we see head out on track now is going to be in the territory of no return. It is going to be their last lap of this session, so possibly Alpha comes in here and is able to set one more, but it's going to be very tight for them. Any other driver leading the pits certainly on their final lap of qualifying. We stay on board with Alpha trying to drive the car out. Ooh. Yes, and it looks like Demi just pulling over to the side and allowing them by as they're going into the pits. And a little bit wide for Alpha, possibly an invalidated lap there for track limits. It's looking like, yes, no improvement. It looked like a well put together lap, but certainly lost time or an invalidated time, as their teammate Tricky also looking to improve in this session. Going into the final 2 corners, setting the car up, very twitchy coming in, and it's going to be a nice dive in using all that track. No, a little bit left on the outside. Going to be Tricky starting what I believe is their next flying lap, the final flying lap of the session. Turn 1 put together quite nicely, maybe a little bit of a squirm coming from the rear end of that Mercedes-powered machine. Going up the hill and late on the brakes in the 3, a very late apex and a good drive out. This could be a rather good lap from Tricky, who's been struggling a little bit down the order. Like we mentioned, having pedal issues on their end, so putting this lap together very nicely. Those pedal issues are issues no more for them. So we move into the final 4 corners of this lap. Just 4 to go, a left, a right, and the double right from there. Looking like we're able to get the car nice and tight into the apex. A good drive out, and just 2 more corners to go, and it's going to be fast. A lot of compliance, reminiscent of what Azzy had earlier. The nice high-speed grip coming through there, and Tricky, yes, able to improve to a 1 minute and 4.5. Able to bump Auto down as we jump in with Sergo, who's on their flying lap. A little bit of wheel spin as we jumped on board with them. But Sergo only 0.2 to improve to get that pole position lap time. Certainly going to be within reach, but is it going to be reached? A goal that Sergo must know is able to be achieved. Only 4 corners to go, 3 counting down where the final 2 looks like possibly backed out. Kaiju's going to retire from the session, so it looks like we're getting some drivers that are opting out for their final qualifying laps. Is Sergo going to be trying to put together the final couple of corners here? Yes, looks like we're going to get a nice drive out, but I don't think that was their flying lap. No. I think it'll be this one here, possibly going for those double out lap, as many of these drivers have been choosing to do on this very short Austria circuit.
Yeah, I mean, with the times being, with the only 35 seconds left, it really only makes sense. You're so close, you might as well just go for it. Oh, ooh, hello.
And that's not going to do any favors, not at all.
No, nope, not at all. So, unfortunately, that. Oh no!
Ooh, Sergel losing the rear completely, able to gather it back up, but that's certainly going to be the end of their qualifying.
Yep.
Paula possibly backing out. Yeah, it appears Paula set their fastest lap, but Otto is able to sneak in a pole. I told you the 1-minute threes were coming, and Otto is able to sneak it in. Yes, and as he retiring from the session, accepting that they likely are done, but Demi, a driver still in the hunt for that pole. Only now more than a tenth to go now, 2 to 3 to go, as it's going to be the final few drivers here. Paula fully backing out, so it is Demi. Demi, the last one to cross the line here. Only one driver that can usurp Otto, and is that going to be? We shall see. The quick run into 9, only 2 to go. We hadn't seen how most this lap was, but a good bit of high-speed grip from Demi. The final drive, what will it be? Tight to the line, and no improvement.
No.
Looks like they backed out, trying to keep the medium compound tires that they were on earlier, or perhaps just keep a better worn set of tires. It's going to be Otto that takes the pole on the track, but not going to be officially, as they get that 5-position grid penalty from that contact in the practice session. Azzy, going to be your P1 starting car.
That lap came out of nowhere. That was, I was not even expecting that. That was just, I'm a little bit shocked at the moment because I was not expecting that at all. But Otto, despite the penalty, is not going to play any games. They are going to take pole, which will put them in P5, I believe, or P6. I'm not sure.
I believe P6 is where they will start. So it'll be Tricky, Sergel, Demi, Paula, and Azzy in front of them. But Otto, he's set a very strong time. He's proven his pace, so he's going to be on a charge very early on in this race. But unfortunately for him, none of the drivers in front of him are in any kind of slouches. All drivers that were within contention for that pole position. So as we head into this Austrian Grand Prix, another cloudy day as we move over to Sunday. And it's going to be a lot to ask of these drivers. 36, I believe, demanding laps coming in to the session here as we have our timer ticking down. 20 seconds until the start of our formation lap. And just a refresher, it is going to be Azzy that is going to be starting on pole, not Otto, because Otto is going to be unfortunately victim to the 5-place grid penalty for their part in the contact on the pit lane exit with Blade Wolf. So unfortunately for them, their race is going to be down in the dumps to start. And yes, there we see our starting grid as we begin our formation lap. Azzy in P1, Paula P2, Demi, followed by Sergel, and Tricky in the top 5. And it's going to be Otto, Kite, Alpha, Fane, Shadow, who is unfortunately disqualified early in qualifying session, and then followed by Blade bringing up the rear of the grid, also the unfortunate victim of that 5-place grid penalty. See our tire graphics pop up in an expected 2-stop strategy from our experience here previously at the track. Maybe we'll see a driver, especially a driver that's strapped on the medium tires, go for a 1-stop, but certainly those softs are going to be too much to ask to go all the ways to the territory of a 1-stop for the hard compound tires. But not out of the question. We've seen some tire strategies already change the outcome of our races in the past, but Austria, not a high deg track, certainly going to be a track that our tire wear is going to be as expected.
And as we continue on our out lap, it looks like definitely the temperature's building. Right now we've got 5 guys not even within 1/10 of each other in the top 5, and I think the first lap is going to say it. Honestly, I think the first lap's going to say it all, because it is just so close. All 5 of these guys, I think, are going to be bumper to bumper, obviously with clean racing, but I am going to be very excited for this this race right now as they get ready to go, and right behind the lights.
Absolutely, and yes, all the drivers lining up in their grid slots. The final cars lining up as we are going to get the car set. Yes, all 5 red lights are going to be illuminated as he leads on pole, but will we lead into turn 3? The 5 lights are out, and it's going to be a good start from Azzy, Demi as well. Even Sergel trying to take Paul into 1, and it's going to be contact in the 1, and it's going to be Demi going around. Unfortunate for them, and a big contact going down the grid in that turn 1. 4 drivers caught up. Demi, Otto, Paula, and Alpha as Azzy's going to lead away. Shadow from the back of the grid. P10, remember, now up into P3. As there's going to be scuffles down the rest of the grid. Blade Wolf up in the 4 from 11th. Tricky is able to just gain a position. Kai as well. And it's going to be the battle into the middle sector. Who can get in line as we now have to be line astern. And it's going to be 5/10 separating Tricky from Blade, but another 9/10 from Kai to Tricky as well. It looks like most of the grid sorted itself out, but 4 drivers with a mountain to climb, and that's going to be Otto, followed by Paula, Demi. 3 of our championship contenders that were caught up in that opening incident are going to be way down the order here. Otto not only hit with that grid penalty, but now hit with the penalty of contact. He's going to be going a little bit wide, trying to chase down Fane. Fane on those medium tires are going to take a while for those to heat up. And it's going to be going a little bit wide. Noah unable to file around. As Tricky's now chasing down Blade Wolf. Again, those medium tires taking a while to fire up. Tricky may be able to dive down into turn 3, but the distance is going to be too great. And it's going to be taking up right under that rear diffuser, possibly getting stuck under, but no good traction from Tricky. Blade Wolf unable to match it, but the drive out afterwards, perhaps some late phase wheel spin coming in from the Williams. Deep in a lockup from Blade, still not getting the heat into those tires. The Tricky going to have to settle for another lap, stuck behind that Alpine.
And now as they continue the battle, they're coming around. And oh man, it's close. Now, if I were Tricky right now, I want to get by Tricky or Blade at the moment. Try to get with your partner and see, with the way things have been shuffled, to use your teammate to maybe get into P1 or P2 and stay there.
Well, yes, but Tricky is the lead Williams here, so remember that Alpha is their teammate down in P8 right now, so Tricky without any help, it is going to be everything for Blade or nothing at all as the DRS has been activated, getting nice and tight on the rear wing. A good drive as we're going to see that DRS flap open up, and yes, absolutely, but it's going to be a short run into turn 4. Not much time to get the momentum. You still have to get the better exit into D. Blade dive from Tricky, able to get it in. Blade seeing them coming, staying out of the way. Good move from Tricky to get that stop under braking as Blade is going to fall down to P5. Unfortunately, only benefiting for the start of that race as it's now going to be under pressure from Paula. 7/10 back on those soft compound tires. The mediums still lacking a little bit of grip, still trying to get up the temperature as Paula is going to be absolutely strangling the red wall tires out of those, or the red wall soft tires there, but certainly also going to be seeing red as well as the gap is now down to already 0.4 of a second for Paula. Turn 1 going to be the first obstacle that they meet together. Paula already tight under the rear wing of Blade. DRS flap wide open. Otto setting the fastest lap of the race as well as Paula's going to be setting a very easy move on Blade, moving up into P5. Next target for her is going to be Tricky in 4. And Blade still... Sorry, not Blade. We move back down to Fane, as Fane is going to be chased down by Alpha, and it's going to be side by side in the 4. The soft tires, superior grip, and they're going to be side by side, nice and composed, boys, through 4. And Alpha, yes, going to be taking that inside the preferred line. A late dive from Fane, taking the inside. It's going to be going side by side through the double left. Fane trying to keep it in tight here, and yes, able to do so. Superior grip of those softs, allowing
Alpha to keep it around the outside, and it's going to be the double left to separate them. Certainly Alpha on the preferred line with those soft tires, but Fane able to keep it around the outside, but unfortunately not the momentum, as it's going to be Alpha able to take the position, as during all of that, it was Sergal getting a time penalty, but Fane's going to be coming back. So penalty no more, so very feisty early on in this race, but it's going to be the Haas losing out, yet DRS is wide open again. Alpha certainly losing patience here as we go deep into 3, low space, and it looks like we had Fane go way deep, yes, way deep into turn 3. Alpha able to get away with that DRS and certainly going to run away with those soft compound tires.
Oh man, this battle is not only intense, it is very entertaining. We did say in the beginning of this was going to be a very close race, and it has not disappointed. It is very unfortunate for that circle to get that penalty. It looked like it was for multiple warnings, I guess multiple off tracks, and that will probably shift things up a little bit. It'll give Shado probably P2 unless he can improve his time, but right now Azzy is basically all alone. He's got the lead all to himself. And unless things change during pits, we'll just have to, it'll probably be all Azzy this race.
Yes, and you say all alone, but a driver that is certainly not all alone is going to be Tricky, who has just been caught by Paula. The 1 second threshold has been broken, as she is now within DRS range of the Williams. It's going to be soft v soft, so it will have to be done on pace here. The dirty air of the middle sector is going to be shredding the front tires of Paula's softs, but Tricky doesn't have that benefit, as there's 3 DRS zones between the final corner and 1 in the straight immediately after, as well as from 3 to 4. So he needs to pull a massive gap through the middle sector, and he's only able to extend by 2/10 this lap through. So Paul getting the benefit, the first of 3 pulling in, and already that advantage is lost that Tricky had previously gained, and right on the rear wing. Paul a little bit weak coming through 1, but DRS again going to be assisting that Alfa Romeo driver, and it's going to be the inside left open by Tricky, not trying to defend too hard, perhaps thinking of the overall race time that they're trying to achieve. It is now Paula trying to charge through to Shadow further on down the grid with that DRS advantage. Tricky unable to get an advantage going down the straight. So many of our drivers now starting to spread out a little bit, but we're going to see Alpha Wolf, who, as we recall, just recently gotten past Fane, who looks like they've dropped way back, possibly a spin from them, but they're Alpha going to be chasing down Blade Wolf, that gap falling quickly as those softs are still in their early phase, or starting to get into the middle phase of their life, maybe starting to feel a little bit of effects of wear, but certainly still faster than those medium compound tires at the moment. But while Alpha is charging down, trying to catch Blade, Otto is catching the pair of them as well. Alpha just outside of DRS range, and Otto is going to be pushing for that as well. Medium tire pit window has opened, so if these drivers want to switch from softs to mediums and then switch to mediums again, they can do so now, but we might see some of those drivers, as mentioned at the start of the race, looking for those hard compound tires.
Yeah, especially with the fact that the fog has not yet lifted. The track is still very much cool compared to yesterday, and right now we've got Kai in the McLaren battling against Demi, only, or is that Demi, or is that,
I believe that's Demi, yes.
It is Demi, I'm sorry. Right, coming into the hairpin, they're definitely gaining on them, and it just seems like there's battles everywhere. Oh, we got another 3-second penalty. Tricky.
Yes, Tricky.
Actually, we got 2 of them.
Both receiving penalties for going wide. But we have to jump back in. We now have a 3-car battle for P6. Alpha chasing down Blade, but Otto chasing down Alpha as well. So this could get quite spicy going into turn 3 as Blade leads them around. It's going to be the medium tire runner Alpine trying to lead the way, and it's going to be hugging that left-hand side as Alpha dives to the inside. Otto perhaps looking to benefit. Blade releasing the brakes, able to take it tight, get good traction out. Who gets DRS? Who will benefit? And it's going to be Blade that gets the rear wing open. Otto as well. Or sorry, Alpha's going to get the rear wing open. Blade is going to keep it closed but lead them away. And it's going to be, almost a touch from Alpha, able to dive out of the way. Otto maybe a little bit tentative with that contact from turn 1 in the race, as it looks like the pit phase is starting to open. We already saw Kai come into the pits. That's how that battle with Demi opened up. Azzy now coming into the pits as well. Sergel has inherited. Paula and Tricky also diving in for positions. Perhaps we'll see the same from Alpha and Otto, and trying to maybe get around Blade on strategy. And no, it's going to be all 3 drivers still trying to take this on track. And it's going to be Otto trying to move around. A bad exit from Alpha, and Otto will be able to get it done by turn 1. But now, this is where it's going to come back. DRS back open for Alpha again. The long straight of 1 to 3 with the little kink of 2 coming in, and unable to see a move coming back from Alpha. But no, there's a little bit wide from Otto from the late braking of Blade. And yes, both the DRS are going to be open. It's going to be a battle on the 4. It's going to be Otto looking on the inside as Alpha trying to hold out. Yes, he's able to get it in, but Otto able to stick a nose. There's still 2 left to go. The preferred line for Alpha is his, but Otto being able to hang it deep under the brakes to the left and able to find the grip that no one else has. Blade now the next target. Heavy wheel spin for Otto, and that could be Alpha coming back. And yes, it's Alpha coming back. The double right to go. It's
my God.
close. Otto almost taking off the front wing of Alpha, diving into the pits. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be out of breath, and we're only at lap 11.
Oh my God, this is intense. Otto, I mean, considering everything Otto has been through today, I think Otto, out of everybody in this field, is hell-bent on getting something out of this. And I would say hats off to him, because he is giving us a really, really good show today. Actually, we also now have a lead change due to the pit stops. That Sergel is now in P1, Shado in P2, Azzy in P3.
Absolutely, and we see Otto really wringing the neck out of these soft compound tires. Blade maybe perhaps struggling, as the gap has already fallen to 0.3 of a second for Otto, and even under this dirty air, it maintains to about that, as well as Azzy on the new medium compound tires, able to sneak in a fastest lap. And it's going to be Azzy as well chasing down Shadow, and using all that ERS. Shadow moving out of the way, knowing this is not a battle for him. The strategy is already gone, as Otto able to sneak past as well for Blade. And it's going to be the long game for Blade, maybe looking for that one stop in the race. It's going to be Paula chasing down Demi as well, even with that penalty. Paula's going to be tight under the rear wing. It's DRS flap certainly going to be open. Demi taking to that inside line. Turn 3, the deep braking zone, but it's a very, very sharp right-hander. It's going to be hard to make it around the outside, but they make it through together. Paula able to get in and maybe get the DRS. Yes, the DRS is going to be onto that Alfa Romeo, and it's going to be Demi trying to keep with, but no, unfortunately, they cannot keep with anymore. And it's going to be the middle sector, going to certainly spread these 2 out, as Blade unable to hang on to Otto as well back up the grid, but person who's hanging on to him is going to be Tricky. But might add that he has a penalty from earlier in the race, track limits if I'm not mistaken, so that's going to be a 3-second penalty to tack on, and Tricky is going to be trying to tack on more than that to Blade. The gap is now falling. Certainly DRS is going to be acquired soon by that Williams. Only 1.1 seconds, but it looks like a little bit of wheel spin coming in from Blade, so this could be the momentum. And yes, Tricky's going to be able to get into for that draft. DRS after this straight. Possibly a late dive. No, Tricky thinks better of it, but Blade is going a little bit
Blade
deep.
wide.
Blade's a little bit wide, yes, and now it's going to be falling. He's going to be falling into the grips of Paula in that Alfa Romeo and then later Demi. So this could be a poor strategy move from Blade as he's falling down the order, and yes, Paul is all over the rear wing of that Alpine already. One mistake and 2 positions in a lap could be, and it's going to be around the outside. Paula looking for the grip. Yes, Blade struggling to keep it in, and Paula just able to hook it around. Now charging back towards Tricky. Oh, and Blade insult to injury. 2 positions in a lap and 3 seconds to add on to that. Certainly not the race he's looking for. Remember, we had Blade bought in race 1, but now we have track limits in race 3. But it's going to be Alpha picking up another penalty as well for track limits. This could be a race that's decided by post-race penalties.
Yeah, this really could be. So many of these cars have been getting off-track penalties, and I also want to point out with Alpha Wolf, I noticed, at least from my perspective, it looked as if Alpha on the first corner had also gone wide, which gave Fane, or which gave Paula the gap or the shot to get in.
Yeah, it's not quite sure which it was. I was not able to catch that myself, but what we are able to see is Paula catching Tricky as the gap is now down to 0.4 of a second. It was 1.5 at this time last lap. So Paula putting on an absolutely mental pace to try to catch the rest of the field here, trying to recover from that turn 1 incident, and it's going to be the overtake possibly in turn 1, certainly going to be making a look, but no diving back to the outside that preferred line. The long straight, the long run uphill into 3, 2/10 separating them, but certainly it's going to be 2 astern, 2 side by side, and yes, the defend to the inside, not very hard by Tricky. Paula backing out, maybe opting to look into 4, knowing that this is a big gap to recover to the top 3. It might not be in their best interest to take this right now, but that gap is so close. Paula's certainly got to be hot under the helmet, trying to find as much time as possible as Tricky struggling with a little bit of traction, and Paula not able to get a nose across, and it's going to be having to file one by one into this middle sector. But another bit of oversteer from Tricky. This could be a look into 9. We don't see many moves in here, and no, there's not going to be one now as Paul is going to be backing out. A little bit of oversteer, having to correct and back out, but not much time lost. That dirty air maybe being the cause of that. Paul looking into turn 1, trying to make amends, but no, once again having to back out. It's going to be another long run. Certainly looking like she wants this position, but is Tricky going to give it up? And certainly not, as we dive into turn 3, deep under the brakes. Paul able to take that outside line, and yes, they're making it through one by one, but the DRS is going to go to Tricky this time around, and it's not going to be free for Paula. Around the outside of 4, we don't see many moves completed out here, and no, shoved onto the grass by Tricky.
Oh my God.
Certainly some choice words to be shared post-race there, but Paula, we have the pace and she knows it. She's going to be diving back up under Tricky's rear wing, and that gap is already closing between the pair.
What is this? This is like, I thought Porsche Cup was insane. This is getting, I can't even describe it right now. Paula is on a mission right now to get to get Tricky into and P3 on the podium, and understandably so, because I mean, really, with everything that went on, it just makes sense. Oh, I can't even think straight.
Paula falling back in line, but Tricky with poor traction coming out of the hairpin. This could be a move coming in. It's going to be turn 4 is going to be our battleground. Once again, Paul with the inside. This could be showing the outside as Tricky is going to be filed out. Yes, but the traction's going to be going to Tricky. The inside is theirs, but is he going to be able to hang it out? No, Paul unable to or able to hold on to that position, but jumping back, Shadow with brand new tires. This is the reason Paul is fighting for P3, as Shadow is fallen back on the medium tires through his pit stop phase, and Demi, the victim of those new tires on that Red Bull at the Red Bull ring. And it's going to be 2 tenths separating through the high-speed rights. Demi's going to be giving everything that they can to hang on to that car, dumping all the ERS, and all the ERS is going to be dumped by Shadow all the way into turn 1. We don't see many moves done here, but this is going to be in the hands of Demi, who's going to be able to dump their ERS as well, as the DRS are going to be wide open. Or are they going to be looking for a move? Taking a look for sure, but backing out, giving Shadow that position. Perhaps knowing, but Shadow's wide.
No.
Shadow's very wide, and Demi's trying to give them space. Shadow backing out, and it's going to be that position returned. That position is not going to stick. The Red Bull is going to have to work harder at the Red Bull ring. And certainly the energy is high like a new can of Red Bull energy drinks.
It is action everywhere. Every time we look at something is going on. I can't. Oh man.
As in the middle sector, not benefiting Demi, as that gap has once again fallen to 210. Shadow opening it up a little bit, perhaps just backing off to open into these DRS zones, pick up a little bit less dirty air, and it's going to be ERS dumping once again, turn 1, main straight. The grandstand's going to be cheering, but is Shadow able to keep it steering on the inside of 1? And it's going to be Demi coming back. You can see the green light on the steering wheels. Demi dumps the ERS, and we're going to be going deep into 3. There's been one move in the past before. 2019, remember Leclerc and Verstappen, but here it is the Ferrari that makes it past the Red Bull, and Shadow has to wait another lap. The heroic defense coming in from Demi on those old tires, as Shadow is doing everything that he can to try to move past.
Oh man, this is insane. It seems that Shadow once again is again going for it. Nope, and he's gonna file behind. It's all Shadow and Demi right now, and again, you also gotta put into the fact that we have 1, 2, 3, 5 people with time penalties. This race is gonna be insanely close.
Yeah, and it's important to note, too, if Demi and Shadow get up close, they're going to be able to fight for those P3 and 4 positions, but instead they're fighting through turn 1 and 3 again. Demi with yet another cutback, and it's going to be the run up to turn 3 again. The Ferrari with another inside move, and so Red Bull with DRS. So Demi's going to have to settle into turn 3, but certainly going to be looking as Shadow's going a little bit deep again. Is Demi able to get the traction? It's going to be the DRS opening up. Is the ERS going to be deployed? Certainly these cars are approaching the end of their battery, using all of it to fight each other, but no, Shadow finally able to hold the position into 4, and it's certainly going to be a gap that's going to be opened up as we see yellow flags in sectors 2 and 3. It's going to be Paula.
Oh, we got to spin.
Paula's gone round.
Oh my god.
Position back to Tricky. She's going to try to recover it. But it's going to be Shadow charging. Shadow's going to be trying to get this position. A Circle gets another penalty as well, but this is going to be now a 3-car battle for 4. Shadow hot on the tail of the Alfa Romeo, and it's going to be maybe another move into turn 1. Shadow certainly going to be trying to dump all that ERS as Paul is falling back into the battle, but no, it's not going to be she's not going to be in reach, but coming into 3. DRS opens. Shadow says, thank you, I'll take that. This is a gift for me, but I need to get close here. He's certainly got to be low on ERS after that battle with Demi, as he's going a little bit deep. Once again, this could open the door as Paul is trying to push that pedal to the floor and get away, make an opportunity of that mistake, but the gap stays at 0.5 of a second. Paula's tires are going to be a lot more worn. Shadow is going to be able to use that extra grip, a few lap younger tires, but that extra grip is not going to benefit him as the aero is going to be blending off. The dirty air kicked up off of that Alfa Romeo, and that Red Bull's not going to be happy with it. But you're able to see that Red Bull is able to maintain that gap, and it's going to be another onslaught of draft for Paula going into the 3 DRS zones.
So it's gone from Paula to Demi to Shadow, to now Paula to Shadow. And while all of this is going on, you also need to consider that these three are basically reeling themselves in to P3, P4, or to P3 with all this fighting. And as I'm watching the intervals, it just seems like this just fighting with each other has just improved their times, and they are slowly but surely reeling in Tricky. We'll just have to see how it goes. I'm also interested to see what happened with Paula earlier, because all we saw on our end was just Paula spun out. So I wonder what happened there.
And perhaps Paula had a spin, but Paula is spinning that Alfa Romeo around the middle sector, almost able to break the gap for DRS for Shadow. Perhaps Shadow has used too much ERS on that Red Bull that would cause him to be slower on the straights, and Paula may be able to use a little bit of that extra pace to benefit him, as it's not going to be any DRS. Paula has broken that DRS, but the red light is flashing on that Alfa Romeo. That means that they are less than 10% battery, and she spins.
Oh, what?
Paula spun it up on the exit of turn 1, and no, it's going to be a mar of a race for Paula. 2 spins that are going to knock her out of the podium contention. Oh no, as she has fallen pressure of the tension put under by Shadow, as she was trying to use all of that ERS and dive the car deep into the corners, but unfortunately she's deep in the doldrums, as she's now under pressure from Otto coming up behind. And oh dear, those tires are certainly going to be whining right now, as they've now suffered the road surface going the wrong way twice.
Now the question then becomes in Paula's mind is, what do you do now? You've fought your way up before. You are definitely thinking you could probably do it again, but with 2 spins, you definitely want to go in for tires or something. Yep, well, there she goes, right in for tires.
Right now, yeah. As well as Demi is going to be sneaking in at the front, going to be jumping into that Ferrari pit box. It looks like we have another car. I believe that's Otto up the grid. We're going to see new red wall soft tires on Demi. But Paula getting also new red wall softs and a new front wing, so perhaps a little bit of contact that could have been what brought her back into the pits so early. Perhaps she wanted to go a little bit longer, as we're now going to see Azzy for the first time in this race. A very, very quiet race for Azzy, lapping Paula.
Azzy's just been sitting there chilling. They've not had to worry about anything this race. All of the fighting has been behind them, and all Azzy's had to do today is just drive. And I think Azzy has no issues with this whatsoever.
Absolutely, and that gap has opened up between Azzy and Sergel through Sergel's multiple incidents as well, and also just maybe a little bit of mistakes here and there, but Azzy's certainly proven to be a dominating force today, and certainly made their race very straightforward. Just go out, turn laps, and find the best time. But speaking of a bad time, Tricky is going to be finding another 3-second time penalty. I believe their 3rd of the race, which now puts them in risk of Demi. Demi only 10 seconds back. If Tricky does have 9 seconds of penalties, that position could fall. We could see a change for P5 post-race.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say this now. Penalties everywhere. This race has both been exciting and filled with penalties. And you know what? I have no problem with it.
Yeah, but someone's going to have a problem with something. Is going to be Azzy with Paula going in, possibly trying to unlap herself.
Maybe. They're definitely trying for it.
Paula's got those brand new red wall sauce, remember, and look how much more braking potential she has over Azzy. Azzy's certainly going to be sweating bullets, especially with a lead like this. It might just be smart to let that Alfa Romeo go, as certainly Paula is going to be trying to go faster and go past. It's so tight. That Alfa Romeo just has so much grip, and certainly, yes, it's exactly what it looks like. Maybe Azzy's going into the pits here, not defending, and yes, it's exactly it's going to be. Strap strap on a new set of boots, and it's time to go. As he's going to be diving in, but Sergel, now can they come out? This could be an interesting battle. If Sergel is planning to go to the end, that could be the only chance that he has to make it to the end of this race in the lead. But as we see, it's going to be Demi trying to haul back in the last half a second as we jump on with the Ferrari driver. Half a second to get into range is tricky there. But actually, a battle that we do have on track is for P8, Blade Wolf and Alpha. Granted, it might not be for the end game position with those penalties, as we don't know who has how much on that. But certainly, this is going to be an on-track battle. Alpha trying to go to the end, and Blade trying to end in the best position that he can.
Yeah, and if I were the two of them, it would definitely be just do what you got to do. And oh man, sorry, I even just sitting here flabbergasted. The action has been everywhere today, and as he goes around for I'm assuming to lap. Yeah, that is not for position. I apologize. And as he out of pit lane is only 2 seconds behind that Sergel, who is now in the lead, but with a 2-second penalty. Or actually, I'm mistaken. I'm sorry, 3-second penalty.
Yes, but a person that's setting laps is going to be Paula. Again, on those red wall soft tires, setting fastest lap of the race, charging down or chasing down Otto. 1.7 seconds to go as Otto has just come out of the pits. So, newer tires on Otto, but it seems possibly superior pace on Paula. So what's it going to be? As it looks like we have possibly an off track from Demi, and it's going to be Otto taking the position from Demi, and another mistake takes another driver going into the exit of the middle sector. Otto able to take P5, and Otto getting a little bit of off track, and yes, it's going to be a time penalty, but now the LPR battle returns once again. Paula in P7 trying to make it 6, maybe chase down 5 on just outside the fringes of the DRS range, but Demi inside of DRS range, right behind Otto, chasing down Shadow. 4 cars within 3 seconds for P4, and what is it going to be? We do not know anymore. It's going to be Demi 0.6 of a second behind Otto, trying to recover. Certainly hot tires. With Otto's got the new rubber, but the DRS is going to be assisting and pulling in Demi like a tractor trailer going cross country. But that middle sector, this is Otto's hope, using that superior grip and the effects of dirty air, trying to spread that gap out, and that gap could be getting spread out quite nicely as Demi dropping to 9/10. Yes, a full second of a second. It's going to be Otto exclaiming, trying to get out as he's chasing down Shadow, but Demi able to get a better exit and maybe sneak back in, and oh, it's going to be a Haas getting in the way. Otto is going to be sneaking past, and Shadow losing time. Otto trying to chase down P4 and make it a promotion from P5, and it's going to be tight. Yes, right under the rear ring. AlphaTauri versus Red Bull, and it's just going to be the Red Bull ring battle going into turn 3. Deep under the brakes, Otto unable to make it work. Shadow able to keep in front, the senior car able to keep that position at their home track, but it's
You got a caution in sector 2.
Yes, a caution, but it appears possibly it was the Haas from Fane, as none of our drivers in this lead battle are going to be dropping back, but it's going to be trying to drop in front is going to be Shadow. Once again, this middle sector, we talk about it every time. It's going to be that dirty air pushing these cars back, but that dirty air is not affecting Otto. 0.4 of a second. 1 second back to Demi and a second and a half back to Paula. These drivers are giving it everything in our final 6 laps of the race. They are going to grit their teeth, and there's going to be no holes barred. It is 0.4 that separate the top 4 and 5 drivers. 2 tenths coming into 1, DRS opening up, and that's going to be these two astern. Shadow maybe out of ERS as this move's going to be done before turn 3. Not much time lost, but Certainly Shadow maybe looking for a late move coming back into the run the forward. No,
Oh!
Shadow!
Oh, no!
Shadow with a hard hit into turn 3, or exiting turn 3, as we have to move back forward as Paula and Demi are also still trying to gain positions. It's Shadow unfortunately out of this battle, but the battle continues for the top 5.
Oh, Shadow again. It just seems like every time Shadow has tried to make a really good push, something happens. It's really unfortunate. And another thing that's been going on while we were having this battle, we have a lead change. We have Azzy in the lead now, and that circle is now 2 seconds behind. And now 2 seconds behind Azzy. So it must have that circle must have gone into pit.
Yes, no, maybe, or Circle could be making that one-stop work as we see Kai going around the outside of Blade. Could she get the preferred line? Yeah, she'll hold the inside, but it's going to be Blade trying to stick it around the outside. Kai with the better exit, early on power, but we need to switch back over. It's going to be Paula on the run into turn 3. Deep on the inside of Demi. We've seen this battle light up before, and it's going to be tight.
Ooh.
No, side pod to side pod, a little bit of wheel banging. Demi's trying to hold that position, but Paula with the DRS and the inside line. Certainly this position is hers for the taking, but I believe Demi has those newer tires, so this could be a recovery drive if she's able to, not able to break that DRS range. Demi trying to tuck in, but the tents are falling away. The Ferrari is being led astray. The pace is gone, and Demi's around again. Demi's gone around yet again. Turn 7, claiming them as a victim. And no, that battle is going to end.
Oh man, I'm so sorry for you, Plasma. Every time I try to say something, we just get caught up in a massive battle, and now we have Paula charging up again. This is the second time, 2 spins, and they're now back in P5, and now we have Demi with another 3-second penalty for off track.
Yes, but look at this as we close in the final 3 laps of our race. We have penalties down the entire grid. We have Sergel, who's been leading, and going wide again, perhaps picking up another off track, but all the ways down the grid, from Sergel down to Blade. We have all these drivers in penalty range. Shadow is getting past Blade, recovering from that broken front wing, so no breaking up the line of penalties. This is going to be another possible position gain for Shadow, as Kaiju has to have at least a 3-second penalty on that McLaren. So that's a position to be gained for Shadow if he's able to keep within range. But Kai can benefit from the penalties from Alpha, but we can see positions change for Demi, Paula, Otto, Tricky. All those guys in Grouse could possibly lose or gain positions from these penalties. I think the only person in this grid that is finalized that has a penalty is likely Sergel. Even though they've picked up multiple penalties, they have a 36-second gap. But nonetheless, this race is not over. This is a race of time, and only the drivers know how much time they're going to lose.
Yep. 2 laps to go, coming around into the final corner. It is so close, and I think really the only person that has basically just been doing their own thing is Azzy. Azzy has just been driving and he has not had to worry about basically anything. They have dominated this entire race, as we got another caution in Sector 1, more than likely an off track.
We have caution, but we have to air caution as Otto is going into the rear of Tricky, maybe contact. And, he's going to be able to sneak past, but that's, maybe a little bit of damage suffered from that contact. But now it's Paula. Paula is in the mix for this P4 position. Tricky has fallen back yet again, and it's going to be the soft versus the mediums. And those mediums are certainly running out of rubber. It's going to be a run into turn 3. Paula with the DRS. Is she able to take the inside? Yes, but is she able to keep it when we meet in the turn 4? Tricky with looks like a poor exit coming out, and yes, that gap is going to continue to fall even with DRS open. So Paula trying to chase down Otto. 2 laps to go, but less than 2 seconds separate these two. We've seen Paula make up these gaps before. We've seen her do it in this race even. So can this close, as he looks like they have this race in the bag? But Otto doesn't have a podium in the bag, that's for certain. And again, these penalties still play a big part in this race. The damage as well that could be done to Otto's front wing could play a big part in how we finish this order. But Paula, that gap staying at a painful 1.5 seconds back, unable to close it. She looks like she's low on ERS. Looks like possibly we might get light flashing. Yes, the light on the back of that car, 10% or less ERS in that Alfa Romeo. So perhaps she used all of it to get past Tricky. Tricky looks like they had an incident as well, dropping back to 5 seconds back. So this could be Tricky losing a position to Demi, depending how these penalties sort out. Only 4 seconds between them. But again,
it's the white flag too.
Yes,
1 lap to go.
White flag and 1 lap to go. And certainly someone that has seen plenty of laps led is Azzy here on our screen for the final time down the final DRS zone. We run into 4, looking at that gap through the rear wing circle, miles behind in P2, and penalties still to sort themselves out. As we move into that middle sector, there's no dirty air to affect Azzy, but it's all gonna be a clean smile and clean smirks. Only 4 more corners to go. The left, this final right that has caught out so many drivers as we look at the tire wear on these front-running cars, but it's not gonna matter because 2 corners to go. The final right-hand flick for Azzy Iredell, and it's going to be back-to-back wins for the Ferrari back at Maranello, and it's going to be a Max Verstappen style burnout across the line. Azzy is your winner of the Austrian Grand Prix and our F1 2021 championship. Sergel finishing 17 seconds adrift with those penalties, and it's going to be Otto trying to file in, but now we need to pay close attention to these gaps. Every one of these positions could change, and all of these penalties could completely change our final order of the race. But also we might have a battle between the final couple corners here. We know Tricky's struggling on tires, and Demi may be able to get into the inside. Yes, in the final 9 laps, the final time through the middle sector, the sector that hurt so many people. It is going to be Demi taking that final position. But Otto finishing 32 seconds adrift, but is Paula going to inherit a new position? No. But what's it going to be from here? Is Demi able to finish within a gap to gain a position, or Tricky as well? No, it is not. It doesn't look like it. Maybe Tricky gained a position, but everyone looked like they stayed as they were.
Well, we'll just have to see. Huh? Driver of the day, I am not surprised at all, is Otto. They've charged both overall and they had an amazing race.
Certainly a race of mental toughness, as remember Otto starting with that P5, that 5-place grid penalty, and then also getting caught up in that turn 1 incident, but able to recover to a podium finish. Who would have thought at the start of the race, getting spun around and bringing it back to the rostrum.
And another thing I want to point out is on that very last lap, I noticed Paula unfortunately had internet problems. They had just rejoined while we were having the ceremony. I'm like, oh, okay. They must have been internet problems or something. But on the very last lap, it looked like Paula unfortunately was turned into a bot.
Unfortunate, but I don't think that gap would have been recoverable, as that gap stayed stagnant. We see all of our positions did stay from those penalties, most of our drivers receiving similar amounts of penalties, so the positions do not change very much as well. Tricky looking like, yes, not having gained that position, being classified 1 lap down. But as we jump into our post-race interviews, I would like to thank you guys all for coming in for our stream. We're going to get our last couple drivers into the interview room, and we'll have you with them in a second. But thank you very much for coming in. Again, if anyone is interested in joining our league, please join us on Discord. We have our Discord in the description. We have as well our Twitter, Simufur. If you look us up there, I believe it is also on our Discord. Please follow our socials and jump in as well. But other than that, thank you for coming in. and we'll be meeting you with post-race interviews in just a second. Oh boy, as it looks like we're gonna have mostly everyone in, so we can jump into this very quickly. All right, hello. Thank you guys for coming in as we wait for Sergel to jump in. Yes, there he is. So I want to start off with Otto. What an eventful day you've had. My oh my, starting off with practice, a contact that unfortunately gave you a game applied 5-position grid penalty, and then also that turn 1 incident that caught you back. Did you think that you were going to be able to recover into a podium position today?
Oh no, absolutely not. I thought the podium position was going to be lost at turn 1, but I kept pushing and I found that I had a lot of pace left in the car, even though the tires were struggling a little bit. But I'm very happy with P3.
Absolutely, and we saw a couple times that it ended up being a race of almost attrition with all the incidents, the penalties that were coming out for everyone. How did you find yourself navigating through that, and many of the drivers that were dropping off the road around you?
Well, it was difficult to navigate some people that spun, but I was pretty confident in keeping myself to a low amount of penalties. I'd practiced a lot just to be able to keep on track.
Thank you very much on that. Definitely a scary race for you, for sure, but glad to see you make it through and onto the podium. So jumping over to Sergel, certainly a race that looked like you had the pace to start there. Maybe a couple penalties and mistakes that might have dropped you back. How are you finding it out there?
Hello? Oh, there we go. Overall, it was I'll take the result. I was happy with the pace. At the end of the day, I knew probably in the long-term pace, I wasn't going to be able to keep up with Azzy. She just has a little bit more pace than I do. So I wasn't really too fixated on first place. Fixated on second, keeping the podium. That's why I went with the one stop, just to keep myself out of the range of everyone else and not let the track limit penalties that I racked up come into play, really. Finishing 35 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack, kind of negates that at least. So, but all in all, I'm happy to bring home P2.
Absolutely, and then also it looked like we saw you go on an alternate strategy, as most of our drivers went on to a 2-stop. I believe you tried to stretch it out onto a 1, or maybe snuck in with an early pit stop. Was that an early race decision or an in-race decision, or did you have that planned out from the start?
I had it planned from the start, trying to go with the one stop, all depending on what people were doing around me. The early incident in turn 1 on the start allowed me and Azzy to pull away from kind of the rest of the pack. So I was just watching what everyone else was doing around me. So I believe it was Shadow at that time was in third place, about 12 seconds behind. But I didn't have a gap to fourth place, really. Doing a pit stop right around the time that Azzy would have done, probably would have put me behind Blade Wolf. Put me in a little bit of traffic. So I was just trying to keep an eye on the deltas and time my pit stop, so that way I came out in as minimal traffic as possible. So that way I could just keep running my own race.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, another quiet podium for you, though. Another good result to bring you into the championship. So we shall see how that takes you into the 4th round of this season, as we're going to be moving into the UK Silverstone. So hopefully another exciting race for you, and hopefully we'll see you around in the near future in the podium again. But moving on, Azzy, quite a dominating race pace-wise. Very quiet for you, as we only really saw you here and there, kind of lapping the other cars, but almost unchallenged for the entirety of the race, especially after the midpoint.
Yeah, honestly, it was just a really, really strong race from me. Going into practice, the pace felt awful. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what was with me, but come qualifying, started to get a feel for the car, get in the rhythm of the track, and unfortunately didn't get a shot for pole. Last corner, I slowed down, touched a bit of the curb, and it invalidated my that lap and the next lap, which is a classic Austria moment on the game. But knowing that Otto did have that 5 place grid penalty, I'd be on pole anyways. It was just a flawless race, honestly, on my part. I was really happy with the strategy. The 2-stop really felt like a good one. I was considering the 1-stop at the beginning of the race, but seeing my pace on those mediums after me and Circle got away from what happened at turn 1, I think Paula hit Demi there. Sorry for my teammate there. That was definitely on for a podium there. Had amazing pace, but they did recover some good points still. But we're looking really good pace-wise as a team as well here. You know, Demi's picking up some great points, and as far as I know, if I just keep up this pace, who knows what we can do together. And I just need to keep this form up going into the next round, really.
Absolutely. And then you touched on Otto's grid penalty coming in the qualifying, or coming out of it even. You weren't able to get that pole, but you saw Otto had that grid penalty. Did you have in the back of your mind starting that race that they could possibly have the pace to challenge you for the actual race win if everything ran cleanly?
Not entirely. I definitely felt that there was pace for probably a mids 13s. That last lap, the car would have definitely come alive. You know, like I said, when I got in that rhythm, it was really something else. I mean, all race I didn't even get a track limits warning, so it was quite literally flawless in every part. I definitely felt like Otto would be thereabouts, but honestly, I felt really comfortable up in the front there, just running my own rhythm, running my own race, and just keeping it on the track, staying away from any extensions and cuts, you know, just running what I need to do.
Absolutely, and a quiet, confident race from you, and a good race win to add to your championship challenge. Congratulations again, and thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, so as once again we put a close on yet another race weekend, we move on to the UK and the well-known legendary circuit of Silverstone as we move into week 4 of our championship. Again, if anyone wishes to get involved in our championship, you have our links down below, both on Twitter and Discord, as we try to expand our championship to many drivers as possible. But other than that, please give our socials a follow. We have many other races going on in AC, ACC, iRacing, and so on, as well as an endurance team that we work with as well. So you're more than welcome for any kind of racing that you would want. Other than that, thank you all for coming out for such an amazing race. We will see you all next week, and let's have another good one.